There's a lot of talk about scheduling, not just in the Big Ten, but across the country. So where do you stand on this? The Pac-12, I'll credit the Pac-12 for once. For like the first time in a zillion years, it actually took a little leadership and did something on its own and decided, okay, we're abolishing divisions. We're going to go to a 1 versus 2 seed, and we're going to do it immediately. Usually these things get decided, and it's like, we're going to start this in 2025. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, I credit the Pac-12. Okay, so then we got the ACC, and they're going to a model of we're going to play 3 designated teams. Each school is going to have 3 designated rivals. Then we're taking the other 10 teams in the league and we're splitting it 5 and 5, and you're going to rotate. So it's not forever until you see a team in your own conference. So the Big Ten's got some models that they're dealing with. What would you like to see happen? Because being a Michigan guy and the game being the game, people are pointing toward, do we want to make this something what we see twice a year? Because if they play a 1 versus 2, regardless of divisions, or abolish the divisions, then we can see a repeat game. Or, you know, there are all sorts of configurations that would point to a rematch, and whether that would be healthy. And even people are, perish the thought in my book, talking about playing this game like mid-season.
Oof. I don't know about that one. I need it in the last game of the year, no matter what.
Yeah.
But I think to start with that, I'm okay with them playing twice in a year, though, because I think that it's 2 top-tier programs, and it makes better football. As just an unbiased fan, I want to see great football games, you know. So that's what I'll say there. I would feel so. I'm okay with abolishing the divisions in the Big Ten, and the reason is that right now the divisions are so uneven. It's unfair for the entire East. The East Division has won the Big Ten every single year that they've had divisions. And if you even went to like the 3rd or 4th team, they still would have won. You know, when Michigan won their first Big Ten championship since the championship game has been, and they won it by 39 points, Mark. That's not a competitive division for you. So that's my point where, like, if they had the divisions evened out, then I'd be okay with the divisions. But right now, because they're so uneven, it's just there are 4 teams whether it's Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, that all could be, you know, in that Big Ten championship. They would win the West almost every year. So either abolish the divisions completely and let it just be the top 2 teams, and whether that's Michigan, Ohio State, great. If it's not, then let another East team, Michigan State or Penn State, play Ohio State for it. But whether do that or you got to even out the divisions, because what's happening right now is not working. And, you know, at the same time, I do feel bad. If you abolish the divisions, Northwestern probably goes away like forever, you know, and even in Iowa and Wisconsin possibly go away. You know, they're fighting for 3rd in the West, or 3rd in the division, or 4th in the division at all times. So, but I don't think you can keep gifting these West Division teams a championship game and a chance on a huge stage year after year when, in my opinion, they don't fully deserve it.
So a few things to sort out here, because I can see the comments coming in about this. So I've run the numbers on this, and to stick up for the West initially, if you take the entire divisions and you run the games that they played against each other, it's actually pretty close. It's like really close. But the deal is that the West is balanced top to bottom.
Right. Right.
The bottom of the division doesn't matter because they're not going to play in the championship game. So Maryland's been awful, Rutgers has been awful, etc. So it's balanced it out because the West is more balanced. But at the top, it's not comparable, and therefore it's 8-zip since they've gone to East and West, because that's what matters is the top of the division. So that's the first thing. And then people will also point to our Northwestern, the time that they made a championship game. They've made 2 in the last 4 years, but the full season they went 8-1. Iowa had a 9-0 record so people would say, well, they would have made the championship game anyway. No, their schedule would have been different.
Right.
They cycled against Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana in the East, missed all the big boys, and therefore they took advantage. That wouldn't happen if they were all one collection of 14 teams.
Exactly. And so that's where, like, I get it. But those, you have to figure something out. If you're the Big Ten, unless Ohio State winning it every year, or 9 out of 10 years of a decade is probably still great for the Big Ten. But I think it'd be great if Michigan and Penn State and Michigan State and Wisconsin and in a Minnesota, if they were in it each year. But I just think that you need to balance that out, and I agree with you 100%. Yes, there have been some great teams on the West Side for sure, like that. But that Iowa team, was it not this past year, or it was this past year that they were like top two. They got to number 2, correct?
Yeah, they did.
But that's like, so that's to your point. It's like they get to number 2, but everybody knew they weren't really number 2.
No.
When Michigan and Ohio State get to number 2, it feels like, all right, that's your best chance at competing with somebody outside of the Big Ten. And even we saw Michigan, struggles to do that. So I think it would make, if the West teams have to play the big dogs each year in and out, it'll make those programs better. Their records won't be as good, but I think it'll make those programs better. You don't get better by playing Maryland and Rutgers each year, and that's your, like, the biggest games in your conference.
Yeah, basically the teams that have won the West have been the teams that took advantage of a scheduling soft schedule versus the East that particular year. So you take your best teams in the West, Wisconsin, Iowa, and whomever else, fill in the blank, and whoever gets the softest schedule usually wins the division. And again, for the record, somebody's going to bring up Iowa went 7-2 in the conference last year. I was referencing the Iowa 2015 team that went 9-0 in the conference, 12-0, and played Michigan State.